Speech Sister Show. I have here my guest, Darius Thomas. He is a speech-language pathologist currently practicing in Atlanta, Georgia. But we both went to the Howard University. So I'm so excited. I'm so excited to have him on the show. Just a little bit about Darius. He is a visionary and trailblazer in the field of speech-language pathology, whose innovative approach has revolutionized the way clients are evaluated and treated around the world. As the founder and chief executive officer of Dynamic Therapy, Darius has established himself as a global leader in the profession, renowned for his expertise, mentorship, and motivational speaking. As a subject matter expert in the LGBTQ plus space, Darius also consults with organizations and companies to ensure that they create inclusive and affirmative environments. He firmly believes in the power of diversity and is committed to promoting equality and social justice through his work. Darius, that is a fabulous mission that you truly uphold, just knowing you. Is there anything else that you would like to add about your background or just any other introduction?
Yeah, so I'm Darius Thomas. As you noted, my middle name is LaRon. Love my middle name. Got it from my daddy. Nevertheless, I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I lived in Louisiana and then moved to DC when I was at the tender age of 18. Went to the Howard University. Ever so legendary. Was on the yard for 6 years, 4 years undergrad, 2 years with my master's program. And now I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a Georgia peach at this time.
I'm sure that Georgia is very happy to have you. You
Yeah,
still have that Southern energy, so I'm sure it was very easy to acclimate.
for sure. I love it here.
So, Darius, first of all, I want to say the reason why I brought you on the show today is just to talk to us about, you are a unicorn within a field of unicorns. So, speech pathology is a unicorn field in and of itself. And then on top of that, you are a Black man, which is only 3.6% of Black people in the field. And you're also a male, which I do not know those statistics. So that's a lot. And then on top
and I'm gay. Another one.
and you're gay. So that's a huge intersection approach. So I wanted to bring you on here because I'm sure that there are plenty of Black, gay, male speech language pathologists or aspiring speech language pathologists. And even if you are not part of those communities, there's just a lot to learn from you. So today I wanted to bring you on, ask you some questions on how we can be more culturally responsive, even just about your experiences. If there's anyone watching this who's interested in joining the field, because as we all know and always say, representation matters. So I'm so thankful that you came on the show to show yourself and how amazing you're being for us in the industry.
No problem at all. I'm happy to be here. So let's get the questions going. I'm a very transparent person.
So let's get into it. Let's start with your why. Why did you join the field and why do you keep doing what you're doing?
Yeah, interesting enough, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, they promoted that we become teachers, lawyers, potentially a doctor, and or go work at the plant. My mom had a vision for me to be on TV because she felt like I had the personality for it. Coming to you live, we have Darius Thomas here on this wonderful podcast. She thought that I should be on TV. She wanted me to minor in dance at Howard University because I danced for Debbie Allen for a few years, but I decided that route was not for me. So when I went on the NABJ tour, the National Association of Black Journalists, I realized that I didn't have a passion for journalism. So I went back to Howard and said, hey, I need to switch my major. I spoke to some career counselors, talked to Dr. Harris, who recommended that I join this field. She's currently the chair at Howard University. She directed me down this path and I never looked back. So I became a licensed speech pathologist by way of Howard, by way of giving thanks to Dr. Harris. Thank you.
Well, shout out to Dr. Harris, because I will say, Darius, we have a similar path. I went to Howard as broadcast journalism, and I looked at the scheme, realized it was nothing I wanted to do. And then Dr. Harris just so happy to come on her white horse, so to speak, and talk about speech language pathology. And yeah, so that's awesome. Shout out to Dr. Harris if you're listening to this.
For sure.
So what motivates you to continue then? What made you fall in love with the field ultimately?
Yeah. So my motto or my goal in life is to make an impact in the life of one person every day. Luckily, I'm running an international speech and language therapy practice, so I get to make an impact in the lives of so many more every single day. But my goal is just to make an impact in life of just one person every single day. And if I can do that, I'll be fulfilled. And speech pathology allows for me to be able to do that. So that motivates me to push forward, to motivate others to push forward, and to be better individuals every day.
Oh, yes. And I know that you are doing that because, from my understanding, you started in the DC area, right? And then you were
Yeah.
working in the schools in the DC area, and then you migrated down to Georgia.
Yeah. So I'm currently licensed in 6 states: DC,
Okay.
Maryland, Virginia, Georgia, Louisiana, and California. And we see clients in Europe and Slovakia. So all over the place. But yeah, I have only lived in Louisiana, DC, and now Georgia.
Could you tell us a little bit with your experience owning these several practices? I'm sure that you've encountered a lot of different aspiring speech pathologists, and clients and families. How would you say, just from your perspective, how we can approach intersectionality?
I like it. Well, how would you define intersectionality?
So the way I describe intersectionality is how we have different cultures. So myself, I am a Black woman. So there are experiences that I have as a Black person, and there's experiences that I have as a woman. And then when you tie that in as a Black woman, that's its own separate entity. And so, just to pass it back to you, I know yourself, you're a Black gay man who's a speech language pathologist. That's its own entity that you have your own experiences. And so I imagine, coming from your own experience, it helps you be a bit more compassionate to people from different cultural backgrounds.
For sure. I appreciate that question. So I can take it so many different ways. One,
Okay.
I'll start off by saying that I highly agree with diversity. I think that it's important to be inclusive, one, and to have diversity amongst our teams, amongst our clients. So, for example, my office manager is from the Philippines. She works remote and she comes in every day, 40 hours a week from the Philippines. She gets to bring in her cultural perspectives there. My team of speech pathologists is extremely diverse between guys, girls, Caucasians, blacks, you name it, right? People that speak different languages, people with different historical viewpoints. And then with our clients that we service, we have Asians, blacks, whites, you name it. And I love bringing in different perspectives. Yesterday, I just asked the mother, can you tell me about your background and what that looks like for you when you're communicating? I asked her that question because one of my graduate clinicians was offended by the father, who was Russian, who was very direct and stern in his delivery. So I asked the mother, the father wasn't present at the time, I asked the mother to share about their cultural differences, how they communicate. I think it's important for us to seek understanding when we're engaging with people from different cultures, different backgrounds, etc., because it allows for us to better understand them.
I appreciate you bringing up that story. That really actually touched home for me. Your business is called Dynamic Therapy. Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of that and how you
Yeah.
came up with the name Dynamic Therapy?
Yeah. So dynamic therapy, DT, dynamic therapy. I love name acronyms. So just to take you back a little bit, if you ever had to ask me to introduce myself, I would say that I'm dedicated, ambitious, responsible, introspective, understanding, and sincere. That spells out Darius in itself. But dynamic therapy came from DT, dynamic therapy, Darius Thomas. Okay, we got that. But the other piece is I'm a dynamic person and I'm running a dynamic company and I'm building up dynamic people. I also have like training plans to help people to become dynamic clinicians because my models and my systems, they work very well. And so I love the word dynamic. I think it's a great word. My mentor, Angela Grice, got to pay homage to your people. But Dr. Grice helped me to come up with the name dynamic therapy. And she trained me when I was in grad school to be the speech pathologist that I am today.
Oh, well, shout out to Dr. Grice. That makes me want to ask you, I'm sure that with your cultural background, that's a lot of barriers. I don't want to put a cloud over it, but there are a lot of barriers to push through. And Darius, just knowing you and looking at you, it seems like you push those barriers to the side, like whatever, it doesn't matter what you say about me or my culture or what I can and cannot do. I'm just going to do it because it's in me. But what would you say to someone who might not have that bravery and it might get them down because they are Black or because they are gay? What would you say to them?
Know who you are and know that we're all different. We shouldn't adapt or try to change to appease someone else. We are walking in our own shoes with our own feet, right? We just have to continue to be ourselves. We have to push all the naysayers to the side. My dad is a homophobic individual. He is, I would say, he does not accept me for who I am, and we have a interesting relationship because of that, right? But at the end of the day, I only can live for myself. My dad won't always be here. So what does that look like for my life? We can't worry about what other people are thinking and saying about us. We have to live our lives for ourselves.
I love that. We have to live our lives for ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about allyship. That's been a really hot topic, especially now in our field. What would you say that allyship means to you? And especially as a Black gay male, what does that look like?
Support,
Mm-hmm.
understanding, and the willingness to include others into your environment, your community. Without support, we have nothing, right? It's you don't have to agree, but you can support in a way, right? You can stand with the LGBTQ plus community by way of using your pronouns on your Zoom platform or on social media. You can just rally behind those that you see that are suffering through various obstacles and situations. Okay. Doesn't mean that you have to always understand or agree with every single thing that they do, but you don't have to beat them down either.
I really appreciate that element too of support and rallying behind, because I think that there is an element of being a bystander and not necessarily knowing how to support. It's like, okay, so right now there's a big, the anti-trans bill that's happening. And so people who are not trans, and there's just still a lot more education to be had about it, just have no idea how to support without even feeling performative.
Mm-hmm.
So how could you comfort people like that? I've had people come to me and say, I don't want to be performative, or I want to be as genuine as possible as I can, because I know that there's a lot of sensitivity around this culture.
Yeah,
How can we surpass that?
that gives me chills just thinking about when we take ourselves out of the equation and consider others, and we go into situations with sincerity, people can read it, they can smell it, and they can see it.
Mhm.
As long as we're sincere about our intent and we're intentional, nothing else even matters, right? If you identify with someone using the wrong pronouns and they tell you, no, my pronouns are they, them, you have to say, oh, I'm so sorry about that. I understand. I'll use they, them going forward. Intent and sincerity is what matters. If you go in with that, you don't have to question yourself and the logic behind why you're doing things, as long as you're being sincere in your delivery and in your task and your mission.
That's very real, and thank you for that. I wholeheartedly agree when it comes to allyship. It's just being sincere. If you know that you're sincere, a lot of people are traumatized and sensitive, so they might clap back, like, why is this person putting up this post as performative? But you're saying if this person knows that they are a true ally, if they know that they're being sincere, there's no need to be concerned. Yes.
And people will know that you're walking the walk, right? It's not you're just putting up this flag today just because you want to be a part for that one day, right? People will be able to know if that's actually a part of who you are. Is that what you stand for? And there's no need to fake the funk. We don't have to post just to be posting.
Right. Mhm. So that does bring me to a question, just kind of going over to the speech therapy and speech intervention aspect of it. I'm sure that you've encountered Black queer children even as a school-based SLP. What has been your experience behind that, and how have you supported them?
Yeah, so I would say to my Black kiddos that I come off to them as a father figure, a brother, an uncle. I treat my clients like family, and they also treat me like family. But my Black kids, it's a whole different type of bond that we end up building up in a different relationship. Sometimes they don't have fathers in their homes. Sometimes they don't have male role models. And so I become that for them outside of just being their speech pathologist.
Hmm. Are there certain challenges? Because I'll just say right now, even for myself, I go and I research those challenges because I'm not a Black gay man. So I really do not know. And of course, I have Black male friends, but that's not enough. That's like saying, oh, I have Black friends, so I know everything what it's like to be Black. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, you need, there's more research to be done. And so, just from your perspective and your experience, are there any specific strategies, or even with the counseling aspect of our practice, that we can do to hold that safe space for them and to uplift them?
Are there any strategies and things that we can implement to hold safe space for our Black boys and girls?
Specifically, Black queer boys and girls. Yes.
Got it.
Hmm.
Got it. So nurturing them, asking them questions. When we see that our kiddos at a young age, they're coming out younger and younger. When we see that they're going through those transformative years, we don't have to try to pull it out of them, force it out of them, say, hey, I just think that you're gay. You just appear to be a gay boy. Like, you just come on and be out and vogue, why don't you? Right? Like, we don't need to kind of feed into the societal norms of what we think and how people should express themselves. Something that I want us to consider during this conversation is the genderbread person. The genderbread person. We should consider assigned sex, expression, attraction, and gender identity. How people identify is most important because that's what pronouns are connected to. Pronouns shouldn't be connected to assigned sex because my assigned sex doesn't mean that's what I identify as. So pronouns, gender identity. How they express themselves, that goes with, like, you think of movement. That's not necessarily important for us. And who they're attracted to and who they're having sex with. That's none of that matters in the education system. The only person who needs to know that is them. Okay. We should be connected with who people are, their gender identity. And we focus on that. We won't have to worry about the other things that's happening in their life, who they're sleeping with, who they're attracted to, and how they express themselves. How they express themselves is up to them. And that doesn't mean because they're more fluid in their expression that they're gay. Okay. So I want us to consider the genderbread person, assigned sex, gender identity, expression, and attraction.
I want you to explain, are you saying gingerbread person?
Yeah, there's a genderbread person.
Genderbread person.
Genderbread person, yeah. So for anyone watching this, they can Google the genderbread person. It's gender inclusive.
I love that. Okay, I've never heard of that before. The genderbread
person. Yeah, it's a cool little figure of a genderbread person, or gingerbread, but it's the genderbread person. Yes, get into it.
Yeah, I'm gonna get into it, Darius, because I had no idea. And I agree. When it comes to sexual orientation, that shouldn't have to do with anything. You know, at that point, that's just their private lives. Just like if they were a heterosexual person, you don't want to get into that. It really just is how we identify. One question I always had, and something I'm still working on even myself, is when we're teaching pronouns. Therapy. How do you even go about that?
Yeah, so going back to that genderbread person, I use that as my framework for how do I teach pronouns. I connect it to gender identity. I say Barack Obama is a male. He identifies as he, him, his. Or Barack Obama identifies as he, him, his, and he also identifies as male. Or he also says that he's a male. I go with the gender identity component versus saying that Barack Obama was born male and it's a he, right? Or I'll say, hey, I am a boy. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Or what are you? Are you a boy or you girl? And they'll say, what are your pronouns? Right. But I'll still base it connected to gender identity. Something also to note, as for like male, female, that's connected to assigned sex. Right. We think about, or man and woman, right? When you go to the bathroom, what does it say? Male or female, or man, woman?
Man, woman.
Man, woman. Male and female is connected to assigned sex. All right. So I'm a male. My pronouns are he, him, his.
But you can be male with they, them pronouns.
You can.
Okay. You're really educating us today because, you know, Darius, I'm telling you, I think people are a lot more open and a lot more open-minded to have the harmonious society that we've been preaching about. And we're getting more geared up around just human rights in general. And so all these laws that are being passed that are really anti-human rights in nature, people are just becoming more riled up about it. So I think that this is almost like a pep rally for us. Like, you know, this is where we can learn. This is where we can grow. It's okay to not be perfect in it, but at least we're trying. So that just goes back to what you said about the allyship piece. So thank you for that.
No problem. Yeah, I hope everyone gets to take something away from that genderbread person and those 4 categories. And we really just consider gender identity and thinking about people are women and men, right? Or gender queer versus male and females. It'll pivot us along the way. So venturing off to how do we teach pronouns? We connect that to gender identity.
Okay, so that does bring me to my next question, because I know you do consulting, and I don't want you to be giving out a whole bunch of information for free. But, but what would you say that are some big questions or concerns with the organizations that that reach out to you? What are their biggest concerns when it comes to allyship and interacting with members of the LGBTQ community?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually go on speaking circuits. I've had presentations with the U.S. Department of Justice, HUD. I've presented at conferences, et cetera, for sure. But people want their team members to be gender inclusive. They want to know how to create gender inclusive policies within their companies. So they need someone to come in that brings diversity, that comes from that respective background, that can actually share how to be inclusive in their environment. Doesn't mean that I'm the end all be all of knowledge, because we're all learning, we're all growing, right? I'm not trans. I have to speak to trans individuals to ask them, how should I include you more in this presentation? What things should people know about the trans community? People that are a part of the full LGBTQIA plus community, people that are pansexual, people that are two-spirit. How can I help celebrate and promote them when I'm doing these presentations? We all have to continue to seek knowledge. And that way, those that are learning from presenters can also, by way, hear from others, a part of the community. But they just want to be informed. They want to be knowledgeable. They want their teams to be knowledgeable. And they want to show that they avoid any lawsuits, because in some states, it's unlawful to do certain things pertaining to the LGBTQ plus community.
Hmm. You want to call those states out?
Well, we're just not going to live in Florida, but that's all I'm going to say about that one.
That's too bad. But yeah, that's a conversation for another day.
That's
Well,
right.
Darius, thank you for coming. So there's a few questions I want to ask you before we go. The first question is, if there's any aspiring speech language pathologist who is Black, gay, or anyone from the LGBTQ plus community, what would you say to them? Just words of encouragement for them moving forward.
Be yourself. You are more than enough, and you don't have to change yourself for anyone. We all have areas that need improvement. We all have room for growth. Just live your life in your truth, with your understanding. You don't need validation from anyone else. Be who you are. Be the star. Shine bright, even in the darkness.
And what resources would you recommend to them when they're feeling those low lows and it's just hard for them to accept who they are?
I would say call me. Call Darius. Talk to me. You can email me, Darius at welovedynamictherapy.com. You can contact me on my website, welovedynamictherapy.com. I'll be a resource for you. I'll be an advocate for you for free. Just call me. I got you.
Yeah, and I can definitely attest to that. Darius is an open book. He's always willing to help out and lift people up. That's just true. It's his
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
So Darius, what are changes that you would like to see in the field of speech pathology moving forward? It could deal with the topic we're talking about today, or any other thing that's really just been on your heart.
Yeah. So I am transitioning my company to full-time CEO and not really seeing clients within my practice. And with that free time, I want to do more recruitment. We need to go out and recruit folks to become speech pathologists.
Mhm.
We need to recruit our Black boys to become speech pathologists. There's a major shortage. And so I want us to think about, how are we bringing other people into this field, and not promoting that they maybe go be a lawyer or go be a teacher, but that they consider the industry of communication sciences and disorders.
Yeah, I want to touch on that because what's coming through my mind is AAE for the SLP. She had kind of like a poll on Instagram, and she
Yeah.
was just like, well, with the state of the field, do you think that we should be going out and recruiting? And I said, yes, we honestly should, because I feel that it's the new generation that will help us. There's power in numbers,
That's
right?
right.
What did you say?
Yeah, for sure. We can make some cool TikToks. I'm sure the kids
Yeah.
watching this. I don't have a TikTok, but I'm sure someone will watch it, and we can create a new speech pathology dance. And they're like, oh, what's that? That's the speech pathology dance.
Yes. Yes, he's just full of ideas, y'all. Just full of ideas. Well, thank you so much, Darius. And you let us know how we can contact you. So, everyone watching the replay, I'll put the information down in the show notes.
Yeah.
Contact Darius. He is a sea of knowledge. Thank you so much for coming today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I'm so sad that it's over already. This was so much fun. You are a pleasure. I'm super proud of you. Keep being dynamic every single day.
Thank you so much, Darius. All right, y'all. Well, I will see y'all next episode. Bye, fam.